Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. It's me, Adam. You're watching Steady Invest. In yesterday's video, we talked about Nvidia stock and how it's difficult to choose which semiconductor stocks to invest in long term because there's so many high quality ones. So today we're going to be talking about another leader in the industry, Advanced Micro Devices, also known as AMD, ticker symbol AMD, and it trades on the NASDAQ. And this is one of my favorite stocks to show people when they're first getting started investing in the stock market, because it shows you how much wealth can be created through individual stocks. Now, the company was on the verge of going bankrupt a few years ago, and you could have picked up shares for $1.50 at its low, and right now it's trading for over $90 a share. Now, granted, if you were to have bought in back when it was $1.50, I mean, it would have been very high risk considering where the company was, but if you did your research and did more digging, saw what the CEO was doing to turn things around, maybe you would have seen something that most of us didn't. Now, when it comes to computer processing units, or CPUs, it's pretty much a two-horse race. You have Intel on one side and AMD on the other. And for the better part of the past decade, it was always Intel that was the number one premier name. And when you would go to Best Buy, you would just ignore the AMD and look for the Intel processor computers. Enter CEO Lisa Su, turns it all around, and now AMD has stolen so much market share away from Intel. Not to mention AMD's graphics processing units, or GPUs, rival those of Nvidia's. And they're also in all the Xboxes and PlayStations. But we'll get into more details, so if you haven't already, hit that like button. It helps my videos get out there. As well, if you're new to the channel, welcome aboard. Hit that subscribe button. And if you're in Canada and want to start trading with Wealthsimple or Questrade, use my links below and we'll both get free money. Now, on to the video. Alright, looking at the chart now, I don't know whether this is just a sign of maturity. Perhaps I have peaked as a human being. Maybe this is just the pandemic and what it's been doing to me, but this chart is exciting to me now. We see over here the tech bubble crash. We see this isn't even the financial crisis. The financial crisis happened in 2008, 2009. AMD was actually downtrending before the financial crisis even happened. Then we see a rebound after the financial crisis. It dropped back down, and this is when AMD was just a joke. You see Intel, you see AMD at the store, you just go to the Intel, you don't even look at AMD. And we could have gotten shares for, again, $1.50 or so roughly, and just to see it rip up over the next few years, which is absolutely amazing. Now, I actually saw a post on Reddit a few months ago. Now, I don't know how true this is, but the person claimed that they bought AMD back around this area. And Lisa Su joined the company in, I think it was 2014, so they must have seen what she was doing and that it would turn around, and he claimed that he was now a millionaire and retired. And I wouldn't put it past him if the story is true. But again, looking at the risk back then, it was much more than it is now, obviously. And looking at the March crash from last year, it was trading at about $60 until it crashed to about $36. And then it rebounded back up and never saw those levels ever again. And looking over the past few months, we've been trading between 85 and about 100. They currently have a market cap of just under $112 billion. They have total assets of just under $9 billion and total liabilities of just over $3 billion and just over $2 billion in cash and short-term investments. And not surprisingly, since AMD has been taking market share from Intel, Intel shares have been not doing so well, especially considering the market tailwinds. But it kind of just shows where Intel is relative to AMD. A smaller process is better because more transistors can fit into the same chip, boosting power and efficiency and producing a superior processor. Intel's latest chips use a 14 nanometer or 10 nanometer process, while competitor chips, manufactured by external foundries such as Taiwan Semiconductor or Samsung, are currently using a 5 nanometer process. And customers such as Apple, Amazon, Microsoft have developed their own processors or have signaled they intend to do so. However, there is something important to take note of, that right now there is a short supply in semiconductors. However, Intel doesn't have that problem because they manufacture all their semiconductors in-house. AMD's use of Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing's top-tier process for its new chips, along with Intel's manufacturing struggles, helped AMD win back a bunch of market share over the past few years. AMD's latest Ryzen 5000 desktop processors finally beat Intel's chips on single-threaded performance, which is particularly important for PC gaming. That would have been unthinkable even a few years ago. Relying on third-party foundries has a cost. AMD can only sell as many chips as it can get made, and capacity is tight. Auto manufacturers are warning that a chip shortage will force production cuts this year, and devices like game consoles are in short supply. Getting new capacity up and running takes time, and there are many companies fighting for that capacity. Demand for AMD's chips is outstripping supply, and there's not much it can do about it. Intel was able to capture business that would have been likely won by AMD absent a chip shortage in the fourth quarter. While Intel no longer has a manufacturing edge over third-party foundries in terms of technology or capabilities, doing its own manufacturing does give it an edge over rivals during times of tight third-party foundry capacity. AMD's chips are on par or better than Intel's chips at this point, but you can't sell what you can't make. Not to mention, AMD stock is one of the most shorted ones in the NASDAQ 100. And this is nuts. AMD overtakes Intel in desktop CPU market share for the first time in 15 years. And look at that graph. Absolutely amazing. Again, unthinkable just a few years ago. While it's important to note that while Intel is still on a 14 nanometer node and AMD is set to launch their 7 nanometer processors very soon, this doesn't mean AMD's will be twice as fast. Performance doesn't scale exactly with the transistor size, and at such a small scale, these numbers aren't as precise anymore. The way each semiconductor foundry measures can vary from one to another, so it's best to take them more as a marketing term used to segment products rather than an exact measurement of power or size. For example, Intel's upcoming 10 nanometer node is expected to compete with Taiwan Semiconductor's 7 nanometer node, despite the numbers not matching up. And just because I was interested, I wanted to know what would happen once we got to 1 nanometer, and this guy answered, I doubt that semiconductor fabrication as we know it will get there. Silicon atoms themselves are about 2 nanometers in diameter, and the materials used to make gate dielectric are generally on that order or a bit larger. Plus, there are great difficulties in actually forming transistors that small. Even 7 nanometers is pretty hellishly difficult. And looking at an article from Tom's Hardware for the best graphics cards for gaming in 2021, NVIDIA still edges them on raw performance, but AMD's right there. And looking at the investor presentation, similar to NVIDIA, they have large and growing markets in the data center space, PCs, and gaming. Maybe this is just the geek inside of me, but this makes me a little bit excited as well. And I can't believe I haven't mentioned this yet. AMD is going to acquire Xilinx, another semiconductor company, in an all-stock transaction with a value of about $35 billion at the time of the announcement. And this gives them attractive margin expansion and increased operating leverage, as well as strong and diverse free cash flow at close with investment-grade profile. Looking at non-GAAP financials, they're looking at fiscal year 2021 with a growth of 37% year over year, which is great. Gross margins at 47%. Over the long term, we're looking at revenue growth of about 20% compound annual growth rate, as well as gross margins at over 50%, as well as growing profitability from mid-20s operating margin and significant cash generation of free cash flow of over 15%. And that's why I like AMD as one of the top names in the semiconductor industry. They're continuing to trend upward when it comes to taking market share from other names. They're right up there in terms of premier quality for semiconductors. As well, they have all the tailwinds of the industry to continue growing year over year. But as always, make sure you do your full research and due diligence before investing your hard-earned money in any company. Otherwise, that's the end of my video. Thank you very much for watching. If you haven't already, please hit that like button. It helps my videos get out there. And if you're new to the channel, welcome aboard. Hit that subscribe button. And if you're investing in AMD stock, let me know in the comments below. See you guys in the next video.